Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 308 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined, as ever, by, you know who it is, it's the former heavyweight world title challenger, the greatest US heavyweight at the time, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how's it going, man?
I'm good, my man. I like that intro. How about you?
You deserve a good intro. I am very good when speaking with you, Eddie. We're going to dive straight into the review part of the show. We're going to start here at the Kilimanjaro Hall in Tanzania. Hassan Mwakinyo, now 20-2, a bit of a cult hero after coming over to the UK and knocking out Sam Eggington in a round or two or three. Can't remember now. It was early. That's what I do know. He was able to knock out in round 4 Julius Indongo, the former unified world champion. Indongo has regressed horrifically. I don't know why the fight was up at 154. Indongo really is a 140-pounder. He's now 23-4. It was for the African Boxing Union Super Welterweight title. Indongo dropped in the 4th round. I think maybe given a count, I'm not sure, and the stoppage was a little bit premature. I think I've seen a clip of the stoppage. Indongo wasn't happy, but I'm really pleased for Mwakinyo. What a scalp for his resume. Moving out now to the Headingley Rugby League Stadium in Leeds, Yorkshire, United Kingdom. Over here, let's start with the prospect on the undercard, or one of them, Jack Bateson. I think he's from Leeds. He's now 14-0, a points win over 6. However, he was down in the 2nd round, and a lot of people were saying he didn't deserve that victory. He got in with Felix Garcia, who's now 7-3 with a draw. Mark Lyson, the referee and the sole judge of the contest, 58-56 to Bateson, despite losing a 10-8 round in the 2nd round there, over 6 rounds. Elsewhere on the card, Ebony Bridges, now 7-1, a points win after 8 2-minute rounds against Maylee's Gangloff. Again, a really close fight. A lot of people feeling like Ebony Bridges was gifted a decision. 77-76 from the referee and judge Steve Gray. Maylee's Gangloff hadn't been stopped in her 2 losses. Obviously had a record of 5-2. I don't think she'd beaten anyone with a winning record. Ebony Bridges clearly hurt her right hand in the contest, and she kept shaking it and stuff like that. She's since had an x-ray and there's no break or anything like that. But yeah, very much got away with it, I think, there, Ebony Bridges. Elsewhere on the card, Hopi Price with an impressive knockout in round 2 against Zahid Hussein, who's now 16-2. Hopi Price now 6-0. Hussein was down in the 1st round and in the 2nd round. Both boxers were cut, though. That one was for the vacant IBO International Super Bantamweight title. Elsewhere on the card, Katie Taylor now 19-0. She was able to beat over 10 2-minute rounds Jennifer Han. Jennifer Han now 18-4 with a draw. It was for the WBC, WBA, IBF and WBO Female Lightweight World titles. Han was down in the 8th round. Expected, to be honest. Katie Taylor points win. That's what I'm starting to predict for almost all of her recent fights. So yeah, I thought she might stop Natasha Jonas, I think I said, but she obviously didn't, and she beat Jennifer Han there. I will be asking about what Chantelle Cameron thinks about that fight when we speak to her later on in the show. Elsewhere on the card, Conor Benn now 19-0, a unanimous decision against Adrian Granados, who's now 21-9 with 3 draws. Much better fighter than his record suggests. It was for the WBA Continental Welterweight title. Really exciting start to the fight. I felt that Ben was putting the pressure on. He was very aggressive. I was quite surprised how aggressive he was because, Granados is a pretty hard puncher himself, to be honest. The chin of Granados was granite. Ben was landing right hands and left hooks, big looking ones, a hell of a lot during the fight. And I was a little bit worried what Ben was going to look like in terms of his gas tank late on, but for me, he passed that test as well. Yeah, impressive performance from Conor Benn, who I think is still, improving all the time. And yeah, there's so many great fights for him. I'd love to see him fight someone like a Danny Garcia. Let's move on to elsewhere on the card. Giovanni Straffon, the Mexican, 24-4 now with a draw, coming off, of course, that knockout demolition against James Tennyson. He stepped in with Maxi Hughes, the man having an Indian summer. Oh boy, it's been about 18 months. He's been on top of his game. Now 24-5 with 2 draws. It was for the IBO World Lightweight title. Maxi Hughes was unbelievable. He hurt Straffon badly during a couple of the rounds. He's not known as a puncher himself. Definitely the most improved fighter in Britain in the last 18 months. Not known as a puncher, like I say, but he looked really good. His punches were hurtful, and Straffon's power didn't come into it. I'm almost wondering if Tennyson's loss to him made him look a little bit better than he actually is, because he was running out of ideas as soon as the first or second round, Straffon. But Maxi Hughes boxed out of his skin, and it was just a pleasure to watch, because he's a guy that has had it so tough. Never had anything gifted to him. I mean, like we say, he's got 5 losses, and it seems like he's in the peak of his career. It's quite unbelievable. All the best to him. He's almost got like a kind of Tevin Farmer-ish record, so let's see what he can do. He certainly deserves a big fight. Talking of big fights, we saw the rematch on the main event. Maurizio Lara 23-2 with a draw now. Josh Warrington 30-1 with a draw. It was a really good first 2 rounds. I think Josh Warrington won the first round. I think the second round Josh was doing pretty good in. However, what I didn't like about Josh was that at times he was happy to throw with Maurizio Lara. That was what was the undoing in the first fight. It didn't happen in these 2 rounds that we saw. Doesn't mean he was going to go on to dominate the fight. We cannot tell anything from those 2 rounds there. It reminds me a lot of like Andrew Maloney and Joshua Franco too. Yeah, Maloney had a great first round and a great second round or whatever. It doesn't mean anything. He had a great first round and second round in the first fight, and so did Warrington in the first fight. Against Maurizio Lara. It doesn't mean a thing. So we have no idea what would have happened, but Lara was cut over his left eye. It was a head clash. There'd been many head clashes as well in that 2 rounds, and the contest was stopped on the advice of the ringside doctor, which I felt it would be a no contest, but it ended up being a technical draw after 2 rounds. So yeah, that one is that one. Very much a shame to end the night like that. We need the third fight. We really need the third fight. It's as simple as that. Moving out now to the... no, actually, I've flown through everything there. I really have. That is the end of the review part of the show. It's now time, just before we wrap this up, to welcome our sole guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated and reigning WBC Female Super-Lightweight World Champion. It is, of course, Miss Chantelle Cameron. Chantelle, welcome back on the show.
Oh, it's good to be back.
Hey, it's good to have you back, and I really mean that. So, Chantelle, we last spoke back in February, just before the fight with Melissa Hernandez. It was set to take place in March. Obviously, it got pushed back to May. Let's start with that. Have you ever had a girl poking her tongue out at you in the face-off before? Was that a bit awkward?
You know what? I just literally let it go above my head, just thinking it was a bit of a front. I think it was a bit of shy and a bit of insecurity as well, knowing that she wasn't that confident going into the fight. So I let it go above my head because I was there for business and I knew that I was going to do a number on her. So I just literally, it made me laugh, to be honest, thinking I'm just going to punch her head in. That was literally it.
I got to say, I remember when she did it, like the look on your face was so serious as well. I was thinking, wow, like, are you not going to smile?
Literally, I was just pure poker face. I was just like, wait until we get in this ring. Honestly, that was my mindset. She done it, and I was like, are you either going to react to this or I'm going to save it until we get to the ring? And that's what I did.
Yeah, you certainly did.
I'm not really. I save it all. I process it all, save it all, and then I unleash it when the bell goes.
Absolutely, and the fight itself, I mean, you absolutely destroyed Melissa Hernandez, who was a good fighter in her own right, stopped her in round 5. She'd only been stopped once before. It was 14 years prior. A lot of the American female fighters on Twitter 5 minutes before the fight started were very vocal, I guess, and as soon as the first 30 seconds of the fight were over, they must have all logged out. Tell me about the fight and your sensational American debut, Chantelle.
That made me laugh. Got logged out. But Yeah, it was a great experience. The whole fight week, it was good for my team. Like, we all had such a good time, and that was down to Matchroom for making it so accommodating. It was unreal. It was a really good week. But the fight itself, I was a bit disappointed with the stoppage. I think it took away the actual performance from me, and the stoppage was coming anyway. Like, if you heard my corner, it was telling me to be patient and wait for it. So that's what I was doing, was waiting for it. And obviously I let my shots go, but the stoppage was premature, and it was a bit annoying, really. Because I know for a fact if it went on a couple more rounds, I would have had a clean stoppage. It was coming, so that was a little bit frustrating. But I've got to move on from it now.
Yeah, it was a weird stoppage because I think the stoppage could have been done by the referee perhaps a round or two earlier. It was a weird moment to actually jump in.
I think he must have panicked. I think she was taking a shot. She weren't really throwing much back. And I think he just panicked, but it was the wrong time. But again, she wasn't, the stoppage was coming. I think anyone could see that the stoppage was there. It was literally just, it was a timing, it was just waiting to happen. But she weren't really she weren't a threat. She didn't think she landed on me. So, but it was just annoying because it could have been a much better stoppage.
Yeah, and it was, it was a brilliant end to the fight. Like I say, the performance was great. From the tongue poking to her ring walk. Her ring walk was unbelievable. Yeah. But yeah, brilliant stuff. I'm very happy for you because I've always been obviously a big fan of yours. It's no secret. You're my favourite female fighter. Lately, I've been doing my bit for women's boxing, getting more and more women on the show. One of the women that came on the show was Mary McGee. Now, at the time, Mary had a fight lined up against Victoria Bustos. So when I asked Mary at the end if there's anyone on her radar, perhaps in the future, I was shocked when she called out your name because no one else has really called you out, and there's a reason behind that, obviously. Next thing you know, she suffers a leg injury, her fight with Bustos is off, then it's announced you'll be fighting McGee. Tell me, just briefly, Chantelle, what you think of her as a fighter. Obviously, she's had a lot of ups and downs, and she seems to now be on the top of her game despite her age.
Firstly, is she your second favourite female fighter?
Who, her?
Yeah, is she your second? Because
do you know what? I think Clarissa Shields is up there because we sung together. I don't know if you've seen that. We sung together, so she's got a...
I've seen
there
that.
we go.
Just checking in, just making sure she wasn't your second favourite now. But yeah, I think she's a good fighter, and I'm glad she shouted me out. So I feel like I've been avoided for a long time. Obviously, with the WBC belt, I was hoping I'd get more opportunities and kind of dangle it in front of people's faces to get in the fight. But I think Mary knows that. I think she knows that I'm a good opponent. I'm a threat, and she wants a good fight as well. She's like me. I think my division is we all want to fight each other because we all want them fights, a good fight. But I just think as an all-rounder, I'm a better fighter than Mary. I think she brings a bit of power into the ring. I don't think stylistically she's great. I don't think she's a great boxer. I think she's quite novice-y. Her style's quite novice-y, the way she throws her shots. What I've watched of her, that's what it seems. I just think I'm going to be faster, fitter, stronger, and I think I can box how I want to box.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great fight. And yeah, by the way, because you asked me about that now, me and Clarissa sung, me and you haven't yet sung. So it might have to happen now. It might have to happen, Chantelle, for next time. Just warning you. If you want to stay on that, if you want to stay in that number one spot.
Okay, 100%. I'll be prepared. Or maybe we'll rap. You don't want to be following footsteps. Maybe we'll make a rap.
Anytime. For those that don't know, this fight is part of a 4-female mini tournament. You against McGee, Callie Reese against Jessica Kamara. The two winners will then fight each other, in which will kind of be for the undisputed status, all the belts at 140. How did this come around, Chantelle? This is obviously a great thing for women's boxing.
I think it's come around because obviously, personally for me, I've been saying about I want to be undisputed in the division, and I think it's down to us girls as well. We all said that we'd fight each other, so it's made it easier for the promoters. And obviously, for women's boxing, it's great because it's a tournament; it's never been done before. and I think this will be the first time it's been a women's tournament, so it's going to be history making as well. And I think like I said, I think it just come across a lot easier because all of us want it. We all want to be in this tournament, so it's just made things a lot easier. But it's been in the works for a few months now.
Yeah. And nothing has yet been said about venues. I didn't know anything about a date up until you posted about half an hour ago or whatever on social media about the date. Can you shed...
my date...
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, my date's October the 30th at the O2 on the Dillian White undercard.
There we go. Okay, so it's a brilliant stage. Because I was wondering if it was going to wind up in the UK or the US again. Good to hear it's going to be at the O2. I'm guessing you're really happy about this situation because I'm going to guess again here, you probably haven't had many times in your career, if any, where you've basically had 2 fights lined up in a row of real substance.
Never had it where I've known where I'm going, and also it's the first time I've boxed an actual world champion. So I'm so excited for it because I've boxed former world champions, but since I've been professional, I've been screaming to box an actual champion. And unfortunately, like when I have boxed for a world title, it's always been vacant. So the IBO was vacant, the WBC was vacant. So this is my time now to actually face a champion. And it's like when people say like, "Oh, they're motivated," it's been like a kick up the ass, blah blah. Like when I say, I mean it's generally been the biggest motivation. Like my whole mindset's changed. I've never ever been so motivated, and it's been a massive turnaround for me, and I just can't wait.
And you know, like always, it wouldn't be right if I didn't ask you for your reaction to Katie Taylor's performance on the weekend, a win over Jennifer Han. What did you make of that? I'm still one of the people that would love to see that fight down the line for you.
I think Katie was going to win comfortably on points, but I think she made it a bit harder than she needed to. I was a bit shocked. I think she slowed down a bit.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are saying that, to be honest with you.
I think she has slowed down a bit. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to get that fight, but I just think maybe she is coming to the end of the line now where she should retire undefeated.
That's an interesting viewpoint, especially as someone who obviously has been linked with her for such a long time. I'm sure you'd love the fight. My next question was kind of going to involve that possible fight. I'll jump into it here. I don't want to look too far in the future, but obviously if you were to beat McGee, if you were to win the fight against the winner of Reese and Kamara, you'd be undisputed. I believe you will do that. But what would be next for you ideally after that? Have you fought that far? Would you like to defend all the belts, or would you like to move up or down in weight? Would a Katie Taylor fight for all your belts at 140 be the best thing? Have you fought that far?
Do you know what? No. So I take each fight step by step. So even now, I'm in this tournament, I'm still just, it's me versus Mary. I'm not thinking about the tournament. Like, I had this discussion with my coach, Jamie, I know that I'm in a tournament, but I'm not going to look into that. Like, it's another fight. I have to win, and I win, I'll go into the next stage. And for me, it's just get the belt, defend my WBC, grab hold of the IBF, grab hold of the Ring magazine, and then go get the rest of the belt. So for me, it's like my mindset is focus on what's in front of me. Don't focus beyond that. So even though it's a tournament, I'm not focusing on Callie Reese or Jessica. So whoever the best woman wins in that fight, that's who I'll box, because I believe I'm going to beat Mary.
Yeah,
but until then, I'm just going to focus on October the 30th.
Yeah.
I think
So you should.
I think if I focus on, if I win this tournament, maybe I'll fight Katie. Like, I've chased Katie for years now, and it's never even been a conversation. So I'm not even going to waste my energy on thinking if I win this tournament, I'll face Katie, because the likelihood of it is I probably won't. So for me, it's just grab these belts, just for me, just to say I've achieved my dream.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And whatever comes after that is a bigger bonus.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's the right answer. That's the smart answer. My final question for you, Chantelle, if you've got any closing words for the listeners just before we wrap it up. Obviously, it's only the second time you've been on. It was a great conversation we had the first time. It's been a great one here. What's your closing message? Closing message to the listeners.
Next time I'm on here, then we're gonna wrap.
There we go.
Tune in for the next one.
There we go. Listen, I'm going to hold you to that. Which rap are we going to do? Have we got any idea?
No, just write something up.
Okay, that is it. Well,
but I'm not a rapper.
There you go.
No, just hope everyone can tune in October the 30th. It's going to make a great fight. Mary's a good, strong champion, and I think facing someone like Mary is definitely going to bring out the best version of me because I'm not shown yet. I think a competitive fight is where I'm really going to show people what I can do, and I've not had that opportunity yet, so I'm excited for it because I think a good, strong champion who's going to whack me back and put a bit of pressure on me is when people are going to really see what I can do.
And it's a fight I absolutely cannot wait for. It's going to be a great fight. Obviously, Chantelle's such a tremendous fighter. Mary as well got a great story. Seems to be on top of her game at the minute. But listen, Chantelle, it's more than a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for your time. I will certainly be tuning in on October 30th, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you again. And we will do a wrap. You've said it to the listeners. It's happening.
I'm going to practice.
Okay, take care. Speak soon, Chantelle. God bless.
See ya. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. 2 pieces of news to mention at the moment. We've got the fact that the women's undisputed 140-pound crown is up for grabs in this 4-way showdown. As we just spoke to her there, Chantelle Cameron takes on Mary McGee, that one to take place on the Dillian White undercard October 30th in London, and then the fight between Callie Reese and Jessica Kamara, that one to take place I believe in the States at some point. I don't think there's been a date announced for that, but all of those fights are going to be on DAZN. In other news, Maxie Hughes, following his fantastic win there against Giovanni Straffon, he has been signed by Matchroom on some kind of promotional agreement. Not quite sure on the length of the agreement, but really pleased for Maxie Hughes, who, like I say, has had it very, very tough, and he's on such a roll at the moment. Okay, that's it for the news. If anything else develops from now to the end of the show, I will speak about it on the outro. Jumping on now to the preview part of the show. We're going to start here tomorrow night at the Wörthersee Stadium in Klagenfurt, Austria. Over here on DAZN, we've got Filip Hrgović, 12-0, in a fight here against Marko Radonjic, who has a record of 22-0 with 22 KOs. You look down that record and there's no one that stands out at all, but he has knocked out all these guys. I'm just looking at it now. He's knocked out one guy 4 times, I should say, a guy called Haris Radmilovic. He's knocked him out in the second round. He's knocked him out in the second round again. He's knocked him out in the third round, and he's knocked him out in the third round. So that's interesting. He's boxed a couple of debutants, and in recent times he's been boxing guys with records of 1-22, and he rematched him as well, knocked him out in 2 rounds, then he knocked him out in 1 round. So this is the definition of an absolute padded record. It really is. I mean, gosh. But anyway, this is a fighter here from Montenegro, based in Germany, 31 years of age, Marko Radonjic. Anyways, that's it for Austria. Moving out now to the Roland Garros in Paris, France. Over here we have Igor Mikulkin, 24-2, former opponent of Sergei Kovalev. I remember him boxing him. We were supposed to get Igor Mikulkin against Callum Johnson. That fight never ended up happening, but that would have been a good one. He's 24-2 these days. He steps in against Mathieu Baudelik, who has a record of 20-1, 1 loss by KO. The French fighter there. Will that be interesting? I'm not sure, to be honest. I hadn't heard of Baudelik before. On the undercard, it's a bit of a kind of show card for these French fighters coming through. We've got Solomon Sissoko, 13-0 in a 10-rounder against Ismail Aliyev. 13-2 with a draw, 1 loss to Patrick Day, 1 loss to Magomed Kurbanov, but a win last time out against Asinia Byfield, so that could be quite cool there. We have Tony Yoka, 10-0, the Olympic gold medalist in a 10-rounder against the also undefeated Peter Milas, who's 15-0 with 11 KOs, the Croatian heavyweight. Not a bad fighter, actually. I've heard good things about Peter Milas. He was able to knock out Kevin Johnson, actually, back in 2018. That was quite cool, because around about that time, Daniel Dubois couldn't knock him out. Since then, he's been in there with Francesco Pianetta, Denis Baktov. He's got all of those guys, beaten as well. So, yeah, 15-0. Could be interesting, that one there. Anyway, that's it for France. Moving out now to the Sky Dome in Coventry, West Midlands, United Kingdom. This one is going to be on Channel 5, so set this one up to tape if you're not watching it live. You've got prospect Tommy Welch, the son of Scott Welch, 4-0, no opponent just yet. The son of Mick Hennessy, Michael Hennessy Jr., 6-1 with a draw, no opponent just yet for him. You've got Idris Virgo, 10-0 with a draw, no opponent yet for him. Isaac Chamberlain, 12-1, no opponent yet for him. River Wilson Bent, 9-0, takes on Sladan Janjanin, who is 29-8. You've got Casey Benjamin getting in with Jarko Putkonen. You've got Shakam Pitters, 15-1, taking on Farouk Daku, who's 21-18 with a draw. You've got Stephen McKenna, one half of the McKenna brothers, the Irish prospects, 8-0, his record. He takes on Musa Gary, who's 11-3 with 2 draws. And the main event, Sam Egginton, 30-7, coming off that win against Carlos Molina back in May. He takes on Bilal Jiktu, who has a record of 15-0. It's for the WBC silver middleweight title. So yeah, definitely Sam Egginton, always a good fighter to watch. Elsewhere, moving out now to the Casino del Sol in Tucson, Arizona, USA. On this card, we have not too much really on the undercard of note. The main event, let's talk about the chief support, actually. Junto Nakatani, 21-0. I'm not sure if he's related to the Nakatani that boxed Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez. But anyways, he's 21-0, defending his WBO World Flyweight title against Angel Acosta, who's 22-2. And the main event, Oscar Valdez, 29-0 in search of win number 30 against Robson Cancesao, who's 16-0. Somebody's own must go. It's for Valdez's WBC World Super Featherweight title. Valdez coming off one of the most, tremendous fights and results, or whatever you want to say, in recent times. That win against Miguel Berchelt was out of this world. That knockout was devastating, and it left me really wanting to see him again. I mean, it's probably one of the most brutal ones of this year. It's been 7 months though since that fight. Here he steps in against this guy here, Brazilian fighter. You know what? There's been a lot kind of focused on the missed or the fouled drugs tests from Oscar Valdez. I'm not sure the ins and outs. I don't really like to get into that side of the sport too much, but to think that he's fouled a drug test but he's still being cleared to fight just does not make any sense to me. It doesn't really matter what you foul for. I've heard this, I've heard that, I've heard masking agents, I've heard he's took something to cover up other things. I don't know. Oscar Valdez is a friend of the show. He's issued a statement, both in English and Spanish for everyone to understand. And I don't want to say he's a dirty fighter. I wouldn't want to say that. I don't know the ins and outs, but it just doesn't sit right with me that he has fouled a test. That is a fact. And he's protesting his innocence. He feels that he didn't cheat or anything. He wouldn't take PEDs, he said. And, whatever. They were in his system, or there was something in his system. And how he's been cleared to fight, I just do not understand. It's bad on Canelo's camp as well. It's another failed drugs test. Do you want to weigh in on this, Eddie? It's a bit sensitive. I know we got to watch what we say because we don't know the facts. But it just... the fact is he did foul a test. He had something in his system he shouldn't have, and he's still been cleared to fight about 2 weeks after the finding. It seems crazy.
It does. Honestly, if it's a banned substance and it looks as if it's not, in the best interest of the sport, you got to do what the right thing is. But I mean, we don't know the particulars, and there's got to be some reason that they're allowing the fight to go on. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you got to think that if it was any danger to the other fighter by fighting a guy that's up, hopped up on the peds, then I would think that they would, disagree with allowing this to go on. But and then obviously you got the proud fighters too. Oh, I'll fight him. I don't care. You know what I mean? That's not gonna help him anyway. That kind of thing. And sometimes in that case, you got to save guys for themselves. You know what I mean? But as it stands, man, just this whole PED thing, it makes it really, really difficult for all us clean fighters. Seriously, like I haven't taken anything in my entire career. You know what I mean? And I was fighting against some of the biggest monsters there were, and just had to fight them clean. So if I got to do it, everybody got to do it. You know what I mean? There should be no one person above the rest. What's fair is fair. We got to make sure that everybody has a fair shot, a fair shake to win. You know what I mean? And if that's the case, and everyone can, you can take them, then everybody should be able to take them. You know what I mean? It should be to your discretion. But I think it's just a little ridiculous. I think the fact that this is out here, and a lot of times they're still allowing fighters to go on with it. Like I said, we don't know the particulars, but I feel like it's dangerous and it's just unfair. You know what I mean? So let's just try to do the best that we can to clean up the sport. That's what I say.
Yeah, no one can disagree. But all the best to Oscar Valdez, friend of the show. I hope that he's clean. Moving out now to the RCC Boxing Academy in Russia. Over here, we've got topping the bill Zur Abdalayev, who's got a record of 13-1. I remember him beating Hank Lundy, but then losing his O to Devin Haney. He gets in with former world champion Dejan Zlaticanin, who, if you remember, boxed Mikey Garcia back in January of 2017. He got knocked out brutally against Garcia for the WBC lightweight world title. Since then, he hasn't really done much at all. He stayed at lightweight. He come back with a knockout win later that year. Then he got knocked out in two by Roberto Ramirez. Since then, he come back, scored a unanimous decision win against Vikshan Mirzabekov, who I don't really know too much, but here he goes against Zur Abdalayev. It's a really, really good fight, actually. That could be a good one there. And we've got on the undercard, at cruiserweight, we've got Evgeny Tishenko, who's 8-1. He's coming off his sole loss of his career to Tabiso Machunu back in March of this year, when Machunu was able to cause an upset against Tishenko, who of course is a heavyweight Olympic gold medalist from 2016. Tishenko steps in against the Russian hammer, Dmitry Kudryashov, 24-4. Only 2 fights in the 28 he's been involved in have gone the distance. He either gets knocked out or will knock you out. He's a devastating puncher. Should be a great fight there. But having said that, the fact that Tishenko has got so much amateur experience, I'd expect him to be able to pick his way to a victory there. And he can punch as well, so he could get a stoppage. We shall see. Always a good fight when Kudryashov's involved. Elsewhere on the undercard, just one fighter I want to bring the listeners' attention to. Mohamed Kuju. That's one name there. Mohamed Kuju, that's the first name. 17-0. His surname is Yakubov. He's fighting in a 10-rounder against Christian Palmer, who's 31-10 with 2 draws for the WBC International Super Featherweight title. But Mohamed Kuju Yakubov is, I believe, the number 1 in the WBO Super Featherweight ranking. So he's actually in line to take on the winner of Jamel Herring and Shakur Stevenson, and he's 26 years of age, a 5'5" southpaw, managed by Igis Klimas, who takes care of Lomachenko and Usyk, so he could be one to watch out for in the future. Moving out now to Spain, this one's going to be on DAZN. We've got at the Pabellón de la Bal de Hebron in Barcelona, Catalonia, Spain. Over here, Kiko Martinez, former world champion, 41-10 with 2 draws in an 8-rounder against Jairo Duran, who's 14-9. We've got Mary Romero, 6-2, fighting for the EBU European Female Super Bantamweight title against our very own Amy Timlin, who's 4-0 with a draw over 10 2-minute rounds. And topping the bill, Kerman Lejaraga, 32-2. Coming off that win against Jez Smith, I believe. He's back in a 12-rounder against Dylan Charat, who's 20-0 with a draw. That one could be interesting there in Spain, because he looked he didn't really look his old self there, Kerman Leharaga, last time out. Something didn't seem right to me, in that fight against Jez Smith. He looked a little bit fragile at times, and I would have never said that against the version that beat Bradley Skeet, beat Frankie Gavin, but I think he hasn't really looked the same since those 2 fights with David Avanesian. But anyway, that should be quite good there in Spain. Moving out to the crazy card that takes place on Fight TV at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida, USA. Over here, it was supposed to be the comeback of Oscar De La Hoya. I think, I got to be honest, I'm going to be honest right here. I was kind of looking forward to see what he looked like in the ring. He never fought since that loss to Manny Pacquiao, but he was a good fighter at that stage. It's not like he went on for years past his prime kind of thing. He was a good fighter at that stage, and he's never ever got back in since then. He was going to be taking on Vita Belfort, who I don't know much about. I think he was a UFC guy. He had a one boxing fight 15 years ago. He's 1-0 as a pro with 1 KO in the first round. But in steps, Evander Holyfield, a man who we did see past his prime, but he still might be good enough to beat Vita Belfort. I'm not sure how much notice he's had. I know he was training for another fight and that fight fell through. I heard that Evander Holyfield was going to be suing Triller because of some kind of thing they didn't deliver on, and then next thing you know, he's been shoehorned into the main event here. Evander Holyfield 44-10 with 2 draws. We saw the return of Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson, Eddie, in an exhibition. I don't think there was that much excitement around seeing Roy Jones again because we'd seen him for so long past his prime. He'd probably only been retired for 2 or 3 years officially when he fought Mike Tyson last year. Mike Tyson, though, had been out the ring for a long time. Do you think there is the same level of excitement to see Probably not. I think it's unfair. But should there be the same level of hype to see Holyfield back as well?
Well, somewhat. I mean, I think all 3 of them, now that you mentioned, they fought past their prime in a sense. I mean, Mike Tyson, but Mike, I just think was off for so long. You know what I mean? After I think the loss to the Big Irishman. I just can't remember.
Kevin McBride, wasn't it, I think?
Kevin McBride. There we go. I think, and that was, and then also the hype behind seeing Mike throw punches, hit the pads. And then people just kind of remember them.
Show someone a combination at a bar, I think, as well.
So it kind of, like, man, maybe Mike ain't, he's not as gone as everybody thought he would have been. And turns out that he actually looked pretty good, and considering, being off for so long and being 54, 55
and smoking
years old.
So much marijuana. Yeah.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah. And then, so with Evander, though, I don't know. Evander fought past his prime, but he was even still trying to really compete. At one point, it was just probably wasn't good, and I don't think Evander had the same level of fame that Mike had, even though he beat Mike and he was a great fighter in his own right and one of my favorites all time. But I just don't think he had the star power. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. To draw that kind of interest, especially going past, his period, his time. His time was the 90s on to the early 2000s. Let's say 80s and 90s more so. But Mike, he's just like one of those transcendent names, you're going to remember, like Ali. So it's, of course there should be the same amount of excitement in my opinion. I mean, he's an all-time great who actually beat Mike, but he's just not as popular. You understand what I'm saying? And it's just, no matter what you say or what you do, that's just the facts. You know what I mean? So probably not. You know what I mean? He's probably, there's not going to be that level of excitement, but it's just, I kind of want to see it now, thinking about it. And like I said, I was always a big Holyfield fan, so I kind of want to see how he looks in I guess in comparison to Mike Tyson too.
Yeah, he's coming off 10 years out the ring. I think he's kept himself in relatively good shape in that time, Evander Holyfield. I don't think he has been smoking weed and stuff. We'll see, though. We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see him back, but he's taking on this guy who 6 foot tall, southpaw, not sure how old he is. Yeah, whatever. On the undercard, we're not going to talk about this too much, but Anderson Silva, last time out, beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in what was an embarrassment from Chavez. He's 2-1 as a pro because of that win. He steps in with boxing debutant and former UFC vet, Tito Ortiz. That's over 8 rounds there. And you've got one really good fight on the card between Andy Vences, 23-2 with a draw. He takes on Ireland's John O'Carroll, 19-2 with one draw. Former world title challenger, of course, pushed Tevin Farmer real close. And then lost to Maxie Hughes, who we spoke about a lot earlier on in part 1 with his great win against Straffon, and then he's been signed to Matchroom. We mentioned that in the news part. Since then, he hasn't done anything. It's not been too long, and it was kind of disputed. It was a close fight, but yeah, he's back against Andy Vences in America, so that's going to be a good fight. I think, John O'Carroll it's a must-win fight. I'm going to say that it's a must-win fight for John O'Carroll. Hope he pulls through. He's a friend of the show, and another bizarre one. David Haye, 28-4, returning to the ring after 3 years out. Since his loss to Tony Bellew in the second of the two fights that they had. He steps in with one of his very best friends, Joe Fournier, who's 9-0 as a pro with 9 KOs. He boxed on a Triller undercard. I think it was a Jake Paul undercard, I think, when he fought Ben Askren. He boxed on that undercard against some reggaeton singer. But yeah, they are friends. They were together on holiday at the time, on vacation at the time, I think in Joe Fournier's house in wherever it is. He's a multi-millionaire, Joe Fournier. And, they're partying or whatever. And the story is that a girl said to, she didn't know much about boxing, and she said to the two guys, who would win in a fight out of you two? And then that caused a discussion, and Joe Fournier said, at this point, I actually think I've got a good chance against David Haye. David Haye's saying, look, even if I had both my Achilles ruptured and my hands tied behind my back, I'd still beat you. I was a world-class fighter. And then Joe Fournier's saying, hey, we sparred sometimes in the ring, and I felt like I held my own, and now I think that I could beat you. And then David Haye said, he said, I used to bring you in for the first couple of days of camp just because, just to go easy. When I was really, really, really heating up for a fight, you weren't invited to those sparring sessions. So I don't know. I've reached out to Joe Fournier. Eddie Hearn is saying that, it's just absolute masterful how they've managed to get people to pay for this, because apparently the story is David Haye is getting somewhere in excess of between 5 and 7 million for this, by the way. That's what the story is. Apparently he's getting paid more for this than he did in either of the Bellew fights, which is incredible. He's looking good, but then again, David Haye literally looks good every single day of his life. But the little clips look good, but I just can't see how he's going to knock out his friend. And I can't see... I don't know. I'm just going to say this. I will be putting some money on that fight to go the distance. David Haye, who is a knockout merchant, I don't think he's going to be able to find the knockout. And Joe Fournier, who's 9-0 with 9 KOs, I just can't see how these two really, really good friends... They've had businesses together, by the way. I cannot understand how they're going to... I don't know. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised, Joe, if they're putting headgears on.
No, they're not. No, they're not. It's a proper fight. It's going down. It's going to count on their records as well, which is crazy because some people are saying, well, maybe it's going to end in a draw, but you can't really 100% guarantee that the judges are going to see it like that,
Look, let me tell you something. If the only way that David Haye loses this fight is if he either truly he's either truly not trying to hurt this guy and just going in there just to smack him around a little bit, or if he's really just he couldn't have lost that much. There's no disrespect to this guy. I don't know who he is, but come on, it's David Haye. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not even the biggest David Haye supporter, but come on, he's a world-class fighter. You know what I mean? That's like thinking I'm going to go in there with LeBron James and just go ahead and beat him just because I play basketball a lot. It's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? I mean, no disrespect, but that's just the facts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I reached out to Joe Fournier and I said, listen, Joe, should I be putting my money on this fight to go the distance? And he said to me, no. We're going to go for it. We've put our friendship aside. You know, we're going to be friends afterwards, but we've agreed it's an ego fight. We're going to just go for it. I really think I've got a chance. I don't know. I like Fournier. I got a lot of time for Fournier. I've stuck up for Fournier before when people talk bad about the guy, but I just can't see how this can be serious. But you know what? I will be watching it. I won't be paying for it, mind you, but I will find a way to watch it. And I like Fournier. He's a friend of the show. I was a massive fan of David Haye. But do you know what, Eddie? I've got to say this now. I've spoken to a few people about this fight, and some people say, well, Joe Fournier is still trying to carve out a boxing career. He is fighting on a Triller undercard here again, and he's called out Jake Paul many times. He's offered Jake Paul money to fight him, like, I don't know, a couple million or whatever it was. He boxed on his undercard last time. Snoop Dogg actually said he wants to see Jake Paul fight Joe Fournier. Joe Fournier, I think last time as well, when he was on the undercard of Jake Paul, I believe he had Jake Paul's ex-girlfriend work in his corner. He's done everything he can to try and get under the skin of Jake Paul. If he were to beat David Haye here, it would go a long way for him looking good, and everyone might want to see him fight Jake Paul. However, if he gets knocked out like he should by David Haye, in most people's eyes, that is the end of that. So it's like Joe Fournier, I think, has actually got more to lose because he's still undefeated. He's still won every fight by a knockout. David Haye is done. He's not trying to make a comeback and all that. We know that's not happening. So basically, it's a bad thing if Fournier loses. And David Haye's being paid a lot of money. And I've spoke to people and they're saying like, nah, but would David Haye really like throw himself on the floor for that much money? And I'm thinking to myself, if there's one guy that would do that, it might be David Haye. I hate the fact I'm saying that. I'm a massive Haye fan, but I don't know. He's like the guy that would. I think Haye would do anything for the right price, I think.
Maybe. Hey, maybe sometimes you could be bought. You know? That's just the way it goes.
I mean, imagine if somehow Joe Fournier beats him, and I don't know, man. I mean,
I won't believe
everyone. Yeah, it would force everyone to think that he must be legit and considered a genuine kind of contender or a genuine threat to anyone. And that's something that I know means a great deal to Joe Fournier. Joe Fournier has expressed many times to me that, he doesn't feel like he's loved, by the fans. They think he's just here for a laugh and a joke. But, he's took it serious. He's from entrepreneur to boxer. He's got enough money to not ever need to box. He doesn't make money from boxing, to be quite frank. Only since this Triller link up has come around. But yeah, we shall see. It's going to be weird seeing Haye walk out again, but I will be watching it. And, Haye, the excitement I used to have watching Haye fight. And I know I don't like to bang on about it too much in front of you, Eddie, because he did call you fast food Eddie Chambers that time.
I love that. That's one of my favorite names of all time. I swear to God, I wish I could fight again just so I can use that name. I swear to God, I love that name. I call myself that name. I wish I was as creative. I wish I was that creative to actually use that. And I would have fucking put that on my trunks and everything. I'm so serious.
Okay, well, there we go. We've gone through the review part. We had our sole guest, the fabulous Chantelle Cameron. In part 2, we did the news. We've just wrapped up the preview part of the show. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 308 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge thank you to our special guest, Chantelle Cameron. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. I have, since finishing recording most of this podcast, seen Evander Holyfield on the pads, and I've got to say, it doesn't look good. Forgive me also for not having any idea about Vita Belfort. Some of you informed me on Twitter of what he's about, and I think he's the favourite in this fight. It seems like there's a reason behind that now after some of you making it clear to me, so I appreciate that. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.